Tech empire founder Marcus Whitfield returned early from his business trip to surprise his wife Emma at their Manhattan penthouse, expecting to find her alone preparing for their anniversary dinner. Instead, he discovered her in their bedroom with David Chen, the 25-year-old intern from his cybersecurity firm who had been working on classified government contracts. "What the hell is going on here?" Marcus roared as he burst through the bedroom door, his face turning red with rage and betrayal. Emma scrambled to cover herself, while David remained surprisingly calm, despite being caught in a compromising position with the CEO's wife. "Marcus, this isn't what you think," Emma stammered, though her words carried none of the panic Marcus expected from someone caught cheating. David slowly reached for his clothes with the confidence of someone who wasn't afraid of consequences. "Actually, Mr. Whitfield, this is exactly what it looks like," David said with a slight smile. "But there are things about me and your wife that you've never bothered to discover." Tiny, what Marcus didn't know was that David Chen was an undercover federal agent investigating Marcus's illegal arms dealing. Emma had been cooperating with the FBI for months, and the security system he'd installed to spy on employees was recording evidence that would destroy his criminal empire forever. If this story resonates with you, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from today. Marcus Whitfield's penthouse apartment occupied the entire top floor of the Sterling Tower, a gleaming monument to technological innovation and corporate success that housed the headquarters of Whitfield Dynamics, one of America's most powerful cybersecurity firms. The luxury residence featured floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Manhattan, imported Italian marble throughout, custom furniture worth millions of dollars, and technology systems that rivaled government facilities in their sophistication and surveillance capabilities. At 53 years old, Marcus had built his technology empire from a small startup into a global powerhouse that provided cybersecurity solutions to Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and international organizations that required the highest levels of digital protection and threat assessment. His public persona as a visionary entrepreneur and cybersecurity expert had earned recognition from industry publications, technology conferences, and government officials who praised his contributions to national security and digital infrastructure protection. But beneath the carefully cultivated image of legitimate business success, Marcus had been using his cybersecurity firm as a front for illegal arms dealing and technology transfer that violated federal laws, international sanctions, and national security regulations. His contracts with foreign governments and terrorist organizations had generated enormous profits while providing sophisticated weapons systems and surveillance technology to entities that posed threats to American interests and global stability. The penthouse apartment served multiple purposes beyond luxury accommodation, functioning as Marcus's command center for criminal operations that required absolute security and communication systems that could evade government surveillance and law enforcement monitoring. The space included hidden server rooms, encrypted communication facilities, and secure storage areas for classified documents and illegal technology transfers that formed the foundation of his criminal enterprise. Marcus's marriage to Emma Whitfield had been strategic rather than romantic, providing social legitimacy and access to political networks that enhanced his credibility with government clients while concealing the illegal activities that generated most of his wealth and international influence. Emma's background as a former State Department analyst had provided valuable connections and security clearances that Marcus exploited for his criminal operations. Emma Whitfield possessed educational credentials and professional experience that Marcus had initially valued for their contribution to his business operations, though he had consistently underestimated her intelligence and loyalty while assuming that luxury lifestyle and financial security would ensure her compliance with his illegal activities. At 38 years old, Emma held advanced degrees in international relations and cybersecurity from Georgetown University, with previous experience in government service that had provided comprehensive understanding of national security regulations and federal law enforcement procedures. But what Marcus had never realized was that Emma's cooperation with his criminal enterprise had been carefully orchestrated performance designed to gather evidence for federal investigators who had been building a comprehensive case against his illegal arms dealing and technology transfer operations. Her position as his wife provided perfect access to incriminating documents, communications, and business relationships that would support criminal prosecution for violations of arms export controls, sanctions regulations, and national security laws. Emma's contact with the Federal Bureau of Investigation had begun 18 months earlier, when agents approached her with evidence of Marcus's criminal activities, while offering her immunity from prosecution in exchange for cooperation with their investigation. Her decision to work undercover against her husband reflected both patriotic duty and personal revulsion at his betrayal of American interests through illegal arms sales to terrorist organizations and hostile foreign governments. The FBI operation had required Emma to maintain her marriage relationship while secretly documenting Marcus's criminal activities through hidden recording devices, photographed documents, and detailed reports about his business operations and international contacts that posed threats to national security. Her cooperation had enabled federal agents to build comprehensive cases against Marcus and his criminal associates, while protecting American interests from ongoing security threats. David Chen represented the final phase of the FBI investigation, working undercover as an intern at Whitfield Dynamics, while gathering evidence of specific criminal transactions and technology transfers that would support federal prosecution for arms trafficking, sanctions violations, and conspiracy against the United States. At 25 years old, David was a decorated federal agent with advanced degrees in computer science and international security from MIT and extensive experience in cybersecurity and counterterrorism operations. David's cover identity as a recent graduate-seeking internship experience had provided perfect access to Marcus's classified projects and illegal technology transfers, while his expertise in cybersecurity enabled him to penetrate computer systems and communication networks that documented the full scope of criminal operations. His work at Whitfield Dynamics had revealed sophisticated schemes for transferring advanced weapons technology to foreign terrorist organizations and hostile governments that threatened American allies and international stability. The intern position had been carefully orchestrated by FBI handlers who recognized that Marcus's arrogance and need for intellectual validation would make him vulnerable to manipulation by a talented young researcher who appeared to share his interests in advanced cybersecurity and weapons technology. David's academic credentials and technical expertise had impressed Marcus, while providing cover for intelligence gathering that documented specific criminal transactions and international contacts. But the complexity of the investigation had required David to maintain his cover through intimate collaboration with Emma that gradually developed into genuine personal relationship, despite the professional boundaries and operational security requirements that typically governed undercover operations. Their shared commitment to exposing Marcus's crimes had created emotional bonds that complicated their professional obligations, while strengthening their determination to ensure his prosecution and elimination of threats to national security. The apartment's sophisticated surveillance system that Marcus had installed to monitor business operations and protect against corporate espionage had inadvertently documented his own criminal activities while providing federal investigators with comprehensive evidence of illegal arms dealing and technology transfer that violated multiple federal statutes and international agreements. Marcus's paranoid personality and need for control had led him to install hidden cameras and recording devices throughout his business operations and personal residence, creating extensive documentation of criminal conversations and transactions that would support federal prosecution while eliminating any possibility of claiming ignorance about illegal activities or criminal intent. The irony of Marcus's surveillance systems documenting his own crimes while he remained oblivious to federal investigation reflected the arrogance and sense of invulnerability that had enabled his criminal activities while blinding him to the legal and security risks associated with his illegal arms dealing and technology transfer operations. On this particular Thursday evening, Marcus was returning from what he had described as routine business meetings in Eastern Europe, though federal investigators knew that his trip had involved negotiations with arms dealers and terrorist organizations that were planning attacks against American interests and allied nations. His early return to Manhattan was motivated by suspicious communications that suggested potential security breaches and law enforcement activity that required immediate attention and damage control. Emma had coordinated his early arrival with David and their FBI handlers to ensure that Marcus would discover their apparent affair, while recording devices captured his reaction and any admissions about criminal activities that might be triggered by emotional stress and feelings of betrayal that could compromise his operational security and self-control. The staged discovery was designed to provoke Marcus into revealing information about criminal associates, hidden assets, and ongoing illegal operations, while creating emotional pressure that might lead him to make mistakes or desperate decisions that would provide additional evidence for federal prosecution and elimination of ongoing security threats. David's presence in the penthouse apartment represented the culmination of months of evidence gathering and preparation for Marcus's arrest, while his calm demeanor during the confrontation reflected confidence in federal protection and the comprehensive nature of evidence that had been gathered against Marcus and his criminal organization. The security cameras that Marcus had installed throughout his penthouse were transmitting everything to FBI monitoring stations, where agents were prepared to intervene if the confrontation became violent, while ensuring that Marcus's reactions and statements were preserved as evidence for criminal prosecution and national security threat assessment. Marcus's shock at finding David with Emma in their bedroom was amplified by the violation of trust and security that represented potential exposure of his criminal operations to someone whose background he had never properly investigated, despite his paranoia about corporate espionage and law enforcement infiltration. "David, what are you doing in my home?" Marcus demanded, while his mind raced through the implications of his intern's presence in his private residence and intimate relationship with his wife. "How did you get access to this apartment? And what do you know about my business operations?" His questions revealed immediate concern about operational security and potential intelligence gathering rather than personal betrayal, demonstrating that his criminal activities were his primary priority, even during discovery of his wife's apparent infidelity with a subordinate employee. David's response was carefully calculated to increase Marcus's paranoia, while encouraging him to reveal information about criminal activities and security concerns that would provide additional evidence for federal prosecution and threat assessment. "Mr. Whitfield, I know much more about your business operations than you realize," David replied, with confidence that suggested extensive knowledge about illegal activities and criminal associates. "Your cybersecurity firm isn't the only organization interested in my technical expertise and academic research." The statement was designed to suggest that David might be working for competing criminal organizations or foreign intelligence services, while encouraging Marcus to reveal information about illegal arms dealing and technology transfer that could be used as evidence of criminal intent and conspiracy against American interests. Emma's performance during the confrontation required careful balance between appearing genuinely caught in adultery while avoiding statements that might compromise the federal investigation or endanger David's cover identity and operational security. "Marcus, David, and I have been working together on research projects that go beyond his internship responsibilities," Emma said, while providing partial truth that could explain their relationship without revealing their cooperation with federal investigators. "His expertise in advanced cybersecurity has been valuable for analyzing your business operations and international contracts." Her statement suggested that David had gained access to classified information through their relationship, while implying that Emma might have violated security protocols and trusted unauthorized personnel with sensitive business intelligence that could compromise criminal operations. Marcus's reaction revealed the depth of his paranoia about law enforcement surveillance and his understanding that exposure of his criminal activities would result in federal prosecution and elimination of his wealth and freedom through comprehensive asset forfeiture and criminal penalties. "Emma, you've potentially exposed our entire operation to someone whose background and loyalties we haven't properly verified," Marcus said, while beginning to pace around the bedroom as he considered the implications of security breaches and potential law enforcement infiltration. "Do you understand what happens to people who betray my business partners and compromise international agreements?" His statement revealed awareness that his business partners included dangerous criminals and terrorist organizations that would resort to violence against anyone who threatened their operations, while demonstrating his willingness to use intimidation and threats to maintain operational security and personal control. David recognized that Marcus's emotional stress and feelings of betrayal were creating opportunities to gather additional evidence about criminal activities and international contacts, while the recording devices captured admissions that would support federal prosecution for arms trafficking and conspiracy charges. Mr. Whitfield, perhaps you should be more concerned about who else might know about your international business relationships, David suggested, while implying that law enforcement agencies might already be investigating his criminal activities. Cybersecurity firms that work with foreign governments often attract attention from agencies that monitor national security threats. The statement was designed to increase Marcus's paranoia, while encouraging him to reveal information about criminal associates, hidden assets, and ongoing illegal operations that posed threats to American interests and international security. Marcus's response demonstrated his awareness that his criminal activities had created vulnerability to federal investigation, while revealing his understanding that discovery of illegal arms dealing would result in comprehensive prosecution and asset forfeiture that would eliminate his wealth and freedom. David, if you're suggesting that law enforcement agencies are investigating my business operations, you're making a very serious accusation that could have dangerous consequences for everyone involved, Marcus replied, while moving toward a wall panel that concealed weapons and communication equipment for emergency situations. People who threaten my security arrangements don't typically survive long enough to testify about their discoveries. The explicit threat of violence was captured by recording devices, while demonstrating Marcus's willingness to commit murder to protect his criminal operations and avoid prosecution for arms trafficking and conspiracy against the United States. Emma recognized that Marcus's escalating threats were creating immediate danger for David and herself, while providing evidence of his criminal intent and willingness to commit violence to protect illegal activities that had generated enormous profits through arms sales to terrorist organizations. Marcus, threatening David won't solve the security problems you've created through your illegal business activities, Emma said, while revealing her knowledge about his criminal operations. Your arms dealing and technology transfer violations have already attracted federal attention that can't be eliminated through intimidation or violence. Her statement shocked Marcus, as he realized that his wife possessed detailed knowledge about illegal activities, while her calm demeanor suggested that she might be cooperating with law enforcement agencies or working for competing criminal organizations that sought to eliminate his operations. The revelation that Emma knew about his arms dealing created complete panic, as Marcus understood that his operational security had been compromised by the person he had trusted most, while his criminal activities had been exposed to potential law enforcement investigation and prosecution. David's next statement confirmed Marcus's worst fears about law enforcement infiltration, while revealing the comprehensive nature of evidence that had been gathered against his criminal organization and international contacts. Mr. Whitfield, the FBI has been investigating your arms trafficking and sanctions violations for over 18 months, David announced, while producing his federal credentials that identified him as Special Agent David Chen. We have comprehensive evidence of your illegal technology transfers and business relationships with terrorist organizations. The revelation of David's true identity as a federal agent created immediate terror as Marcus realized that his criminal operations had been under comprehensive surveillance, while his conversations and transactions had been documented for federal prosecution and asset forfeiture proceedings. Emma's acknowledgement of her cooperation with federal investigators completed Marcus's understanding that his entire world had been a carefully orchestrated deception designed to gather evidence for criminal prosecution while protecting American interests from his illegal arms dealing and technology transfer activities. Marcus, I've been working with federal agents to document your crimes and protect national security, Emma admitted, while displaying recording devices that had captured months of incriminating conversations and business transactions. Your betrayal of American interests through arms sales to terrorists required intervention and prosecution. The comprehensive nature of federal investigation and surveillance created complete despair as Marcus understood that his criminal activities, hidden assets, and business relationships had been systematically documented, while escape or negotiation was impossible due to the severity of charges and national security implications. Agent David Chen's systematic presentation of evidence transformed the luxury bedroom into an interrogation room, where Marcus faced comprehensive documentation of his crimes, while understanding that federal investigators had gathered sufficient proof to ensure life imprisonment and complete asset forfeiture through criminal prosecution. "Marcus, we have recorded conversations documenting your arms sales to designated terrorist organizations," David announced while connecting his tablet to the bedroom's television screen that Marcus had installed for personal entertainment. "These communications show explicit negotiations for advanced weapons systems and surveillance technology." The screen filled with transcripts and audio recordings that captured Marcus's discussions with arms dealers and terrorist contacts, while establishing criminal intent and conspiracy that would support federal prosecution under arms export control laws and anti-terrorism statutes. Marcus watched in horror as months of carefully planned criminal transactions were displayed as evidence, while understanding that federal investigators had penetrated his communication systems and business operations through sophisticated surveillance that he had never detected despite his cybersecurity expertise. These financial records show systematic money laundering through offshore accounts and shell companies, David continued, while displaying banking documents that traced illegal arms sales proceeds through complex international transfers designed to evade law enforcement detection. "The Treasury Department has frozen all accounts associated with your criminal organization." The revelation of frozen assets eliminated any hope that Marcus could access hidden wealth or escape prosecution through financial resources, while demonstrating the comprehensive nature of federal investigation that had identified all components of his criminal empire and international money laundering operations. Emma's documentation provided additional evidence of Marcus's crimes while establishing her cooperation with federal investigators and immunity from prosecution in exchange for testimony that would support criminal charges and asset forfeiture proceedings. "I recorded conversations where you described selling advanced missile guidance systems to organizations planning attacks against American allies," Emma said, while displaying her own evidence gathering that had documented specific criminal transactions. "Your betrayal of national security interests was systematic and deliberate." Her evidence included photographs of classified documents, recorded phone calls with international arms dealers, and detailed accounts of business meetings where Marcus had negotiated illegal weapons sales and technology transfers that violated multiple federal statutes and international agreements. Marcus's attempts to deny the evidence were undermined by his own voice and documented business transactions, while his recorded statements established criminal intent and awareness that his activities violated federal law and threatened American security interests. This evidence was obtained illegally through violation of attorney-client privilege and constitutional protections, Marcus protested, while attempting to challenge the admissibility of recordings that clearly established his guilt. "Federal agents had no legal authority to conduct surveillance of my private business discussions and personal communications." His legal objections revealed ignorance about federal authority to investigate national security threats while demonstrating his desperation to escape prosecution, despite overwhelming evidence of criminal activity and conspiracy against the United States. David's response established the legal framework that had authorized comprehensive surveillance, while demonstrating that Marcus's criminal activities had eliminated any expectation of privacy protection under constitutional law and federal statutes governing national security investigations. "Marcus, your arms trafficking and technology transfer to designated terrorist organizations eliminated constitutional protection and authorized comprehensive surveillance under national security statutes," David explained, while displaying court orders and federal warrants that had authorized investigation. "The FISA court approved surveillance based on credible evidence that your activities threatened American security interests. The legal authority for federal investigation eliminated any possibility that evidence would be excluded from prosecution, while establishing that Marcus's crimes were so severe that normal privacy protections were suspended under national security laws and anti-terrorism statutes. Additional evidence revealed the international scope of Marcus's criminal activities, while documenting business relationships with terrorist organizations, hostile foreign governments, and international arms dealers who posed ongoing threats to American interests and global security. These intelligence reports show that weapons and technology you sold were used in terrorist attacks that killed American citizens and Allied personnel, David continued, while displaying classified assessments that documented the human consequences of Marcus's arms dealing. Your criminal activities directly contributed to terrorist operations that targeted American interests worldwide. The revelation that Marcus's arms sales had resulted in American deaths created additional criminal liability while demonstrating the severity of his betrayal and the national security implications that would influence sentencing and asset forfeiture proceedings. Marcus's realization that his crimes had resulted in American casualties eliminated any hope for negotiated plea agreements, while establishing that federal prosecutors would seek maximum penalties, including life imprisonment and complete asset forfeiture, to compensate victims and deter similar criminal activities. Emma's testimony about Marcus's criminal activities included detailed accounts of his business relationships with international terrorist organizations, while documenting his knowledge that weapons sales would be used for attacks against American targets and allied nations. Marcus described his arms sales as leveling the playing field against American military superiority, Emma testified, while providing evidence of his anti-American motivations. He explicitly stated that weakening American influence would benefit his business operations and international relationships. Her testimony established that Marcus's crimes were motivated by anti-American sentiment rather than pure financial gain, while demonstrating his willingness to sacrifice American lives and security interests for personal profit and ideological satisfaction. The comprehensive nature of evidence and testimony eliminated any possibility that Marcus could escape prosecution, while establishing that his criminal activities warranted maximum penalties and complete elimination of his wealth through asset forfeiture and victim compensation requirements. David's presentation concluded with evidence of ongoing criminal operations and planned attacks that Marcus's organization was supporting, while demonstrating the urgent need for immediate arrest and neutralization of continuing threats to American security interests. Intelligence indicates that your organization is currently facilitating arms transfers for planned attacks against American diplomatic facilities, David announced, while displaying classified threat assessments. Federal agents are arresting your criminal associates while seizing weapons and disrupting terrorist operations. The revelation that federal law enforcement was conducting simultaneous operations against Marcus's entire criminal network eliminated any hope for escape or continued criminal activity, while ensuring that his arrest would neutralize comprehensive threats to American security and international stability. The luxury penthouse apartment was suddenly filled with federal agents as an FBI tactical team executed arrest warrants while securing evidence and ensuring that Marcus could not access weapons or communication devices that might enable escape or retaliation against witnesses and law enforcement personnel. Marcus Whitfield, you are under arrest for arms trafficking, conspiracy against the United States, and violations of national security laws, announced FBI Special Agent Maria Santos, as tactical officers secured the apartment and placed Marcus in restraints. You have the right to remain silent, and anything you say will be used as evidence in federal court. The arrest culminated 18 months of complex investigation, while neutralizing ongoing threats to American security and eliminating a criminal organization that had provided advanced weapons systems to terrorist groups and hostile foreign governments. Marcus's shock at the coordinated federal operation revealed his complete failure to detect law enforcement surveillance despite his cybersecurity expertise, while demonstrating that his arrogance and sense of invulnerability had made him vulnerable to comprehensive investigation and evidence gathering. This is illegal persecution of legitimate business activities, Marcus protested, while federal agents secured classified documents and electronic devices that contained evidence of additional crimes and international conspiracies. My cybersecurity firm operates within all applicable laws and regulatory requirements. His continued denial of criminal activity was contradicted by overwhelming evidence, while revealing his psychological inability to acknowledge responsibility for crimes that had endangered American lives and security interests through illegal arms sales and technology transfer. The federal arrest operation included seizure of all electronic equipment, classified documents, and communication devices, while ensuring that Marcus's criminal associates could not be warned about law enforcement activity or destroy evidence of ongoing criminal operations and planned attacks. Emma's cooperation with federal agents during the arrest demonstrated her commitment to national security while protecting her from any association with Marcus's criminal activities through her immunity agreement and witness protection arrangements. Emma's cooperation was essential for gathering evidence and protecting American interests, Agent Santos explained, while acknowledging Emma's contributions to the investigation. Her sacrifice and patriotic service enabled us to prevent terrorist attacks and eliminate ongoing security threats. The recognition of Emma's service contrasted sharply with Marcus's betrayal of American interests, while demonstrating that personal relationships could not justify tolerance for criminal activities that threatened national security and international stability. David's revelation as an undercover federal agent completed the destruction of Marcus's criminal organization, while demonstrating the sophisticated nature of law enforcement operations designed to penetrate and neutralize complex international conspiracies. Agent Chen's infiltration of Whitfield Dynamics provided crucial evidence about arms trafficking and technology transfer that enabled comprehensive prosecution of this criminal network. Agent Santos continued, while explaining the investigation's success. His undercover work prevented weapons from reaching terrorist organizations and hostile governments. The success of the undercover operation reflected careful planning and coordination between multiple federal agencies, while demonstrating that law enforcement capabilities exceeded those of criminal organizations despite their wealth and technological sophistication. Marcus's transport to federal detention facilities eliminated his ability to contact criminal associates or access hidden assets, while ensuring that prosecution could proceed without interference from international arms dealers and terrorist organizations that had benefited from his illegal activities. The detention facility where Marcus was held specialized in high-security cases involving national security threats, while preventing communication with criminal associates and ensuring that ongoing investigations could continue without compromise or retaliation against witnesses and law enforcement personnel. Federal prosecutors immediately filed comprehensive charges that included arms trafficking, conspiracy against the United States, money laundering, sanctions violations, and aiding terrorist organizations, while seeking life imprisonment and complete asset forfeiture to compensate victims and deter similar criminal activities. The charging documents detailed specific criminal transactions and business relationships, while establishing that Marcus's activities had directly contributed to terrorist attacks that killed American citizens and endangered national security interests worldwide. Asset forfeiture proceedings targeted all property, accounts, and investments associated with Marcus's criminal activities, while ensuring that victims of terrorist attacks would receive compensation and that criminal proceeds could not benefit Marcus or his associates. The comprehensive nature of asset forfeiture eliminated Marcus's wealth and social status, while demonstrating that criminal activities would not provide long-term benefits regardless of their initial profitability or success in evading detection. International cooperation with allied law enforcement agencies ensured that Marcus's overseas assets and business relationships were also targeted, while preventing his criminal associates from accessing resources that could fund continued illegal activities or terrorist operations. The global scope of law enforcement cooperation reflected the international nature of Marcus's crimes, while demonstrating that arms trafficking and terrorism support could not find safe haven in any jurisdiction that respected international law and security cooperation. Media coverage of Marcus's arrest focused on the national security implications, while educating the public about the dangers of illegal arms dealing and the importance of federal law enforcement capabilities in detecting and neutralizing complex international criminal conspiracies. The publicity surrounding Marcus's case deterred other potential arms dealers, while demonstrating that law enforcement agencies possessed sophisticated capabilities for detecting and prosecuting criminal activities that threatened American security interests and international stability. Marcus Whitfield's federal trial proceeded with unprecedented media attention as prosecutors presented evidence of systematic arms trafficking and conspiracy that had endangered American lives while generating enormous profits for terrorist organizations and hostile foreign governments. The prosecution team, led by federal prosecutor Jennifer Martinez, recognized that Marcus's case represented an opportunity to establish important precedents for combating arms trafficking while demonstrating that wealth and social status would not protect criminals from accountability for threatening national security. The evidence will show that Marcus Whitfield systematically betrayed American interests by providing advanced weapons systems to designated terrorist organizations, Prosecutor Martinez announced during opening statements. His criminal activities directly contributed to attacks that killed American citizens while undermining international security and stability. The prosecution's case included testimony from federal agents, intelligence analysts, and international security experts who documented the scope of Marcus's criminal activities while explaining their impact on American security interests and international counterterrorism efforts. David Chen's testimony provided comprehensive details about Marcus's business operations while documenting specific criminal transactions and communications that established criminal intent and conspiracy to support terrorist activities. Marcus Whitfield explicitly stated that weakening American military capabilities would benefit his business relationships with foreign arms dealers and terrorist organizations, Agent Chen testified, while presenting recorded conversations as evidence. His motivation was clearly anti-American, while his actions directly supported terrorist operations. Emma's testimony corroborated Agent Chen's evidence while providing intimate details about Marcus's criminal activities and international relationships that had been gathered through her undercover cooperation with federal investigators. Marcus described American victims of terrorist attacks as acceptable casualties of his business operations. Emma testified while presenting evidence of his callousness toward human consequences. He viewed terrorist attacks using his weapons as marketing opportunities that would increase demand for his illegal arms sales. Her testimony established Marcus's complete lack of remorse while demonstrating his willingness to sacrifice American lives for personal profit and ideological satisfaction that motivated his criminal activities. Intelligence officials testified about the international impact of Marcus's arms trafficking while documenting how his weapons sales had strengthened terrorist organizations and hostile governments that threatened American allies and international security. Analysis shows that weapons systems provided by Whitfield Dynamics were used in 17 separate terrorist attacks that killed 43 American citizens and over 200 Allied personnel, testified CIA analyst Dr. Robert Kim. His criminal activities significantly enhanced terrorist capabilities while undermining American counter-terrorism efforts. The testimony established the deadly consequences of Marcus's crimes while justifying maximum criminal penalties and complete asset forfeiture to compensate victims and prevent similar criminal activities. Expert witnesses explained the technical aspects of weapons systems that Marcus had illegally transferred, while demonstrating how his cybersecurity expertise had enabled sophisticated violations of export controls and sanctions regulations. Marcus Whitfield used his legitimate cybersecurity business to mask illegal technology transfers that provided terrorist organizations with advanced surveillance capabilities and weapons guidance systems, testified Dr. Sarah Chen from the Defense Intelligence Agency. His technical expertise made these violations particularly dangerous to American security interests. The expert testimony established that Marcus's crimes required specialized knowledge and deliberate intent, while eliminating any possibility of claiming ignorance about legal requirements or accidental violations of arms export controls. Financial experts documented the money laundering schemes that Marcus had used to hide criminal proceeds while demonstrating the international scope of his illegal activities and business relationships with terrorist organizations. Forensic analysis reveals that Marcus Whitfield laundered over $800 million in illegal arms sales proceeds through offshore accounts and shell companies, testified Treasury Department analyst Michael Rodriguez. These funds were used to finance additional weapons purchases and terrorist operations worldwide. The financial evidence established the enormous scope of Marcus's criminal enterprise, while justifying comprehensive asset forfeiture and restitution requirements that would eliminate his wealth and compensate victims of terrorist attacks. Marcus's defense team attempted to argue that his activities constituted legitimate business operations that had been mischaracterized by overzealous federal prosecutors, but the overwhelming evidence made such arguments impossible to sustain. The government has criminalized normal international business relationships while violating my client's constitutional rights through illegal surveillance and entrapment, argued defense attorney Jonathan Pierce during cross-examination of government witnesses. But prosecutors demonstrated that Marcus's activities clearly violated federal law, while his recorded statements established criminal intent and awareness that arms sales were supporting terrorist organizations that targeted American interests. The jury deliberation lasted only 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all charges, while rejecting defense claims that Marcus's activities constituted legitimate business operations rather than criminal conspiracy against the United States. The evidence was overwhelming and disturbing, explained jury foreman Patricia Williams after the verdict. Mr. Whitfield clearly knew that his actions were supporting terrorism while endangering American lives for personal profit. The conviction on all charges ensured that Marcus would face life imprisonment, while comprehensive asset forfeiture would eliminate his wealth and provide compensation for victims of terrorist attacks that had been enabled by his criminal activities. Marcus Whitfield's sentencing hearing drew international attention as victims of terrorist attacks testified about the human consequences of his arms trafficking, while federal prosecutors sought life imprisonment and complete asset forfeiture to reflect the severity of his crimes against American interests. Federal Judge Patricia Martinez recognized that Marcus's case required maximum penalties to deter arms trafficking while protecting national security and demonstrating that criminal activities against American interests would face severe consequences regardless of the perpetrator's wealth or social status. Marcus Whitfield's systematic betrayal of American interests through arms trafficking and terrorist support represents one of the most serious threats to national security that this court has encountered, Judge Martinez announced during sentencing proceedings. His criminal activities directly contributed to terrorist attacks while undermining international security and counter-terrorism efforts. The impact statements from victims' families provided emotional testimony about the human consequences of Marcus's crimes while establishing the personal devastation caused by terrorist attacks that had been enabled by his illegal weapons sales. My husband was killed in an embassy bombing that used guidance systems provided by Marcus Whitfield, testified Sarah Johnson, widow of a State Department official killed in a terrorist attack. His criminal activities destroyed our family while supporting terrorists who continue to threaten American citizens worldwide. The victim testimony established the personal stakes of Marcus's criminal activities while justifying maximum penalties and comprehensive asset forfeiture to provide compensation and prevent similar criminal activities that threatened American lives and security interests. Emma's victim impact statement documented the personal betrayal and emotional trauma caused by Marcus's criminal activities while emphasizing her commitment to national security that had motivated her cooperation with federal investigators. Marcus Whitfield betrayed not only our marriage, but also his obligations as an American citizen to protect rather than threaten our national security, Emma testified, while explaining her decision to cooperate with federal investigation. His criminal activities forced me to choose between personal loyalty and patriotic duty. Her testimony established that Marcus's crimes had created victims among his own family, while demonstrating the courage required to expose criminal activities and protect American interests despite personal costs and emotional trauma. Agent Chen's testimony during sentencing documented the ongoing national security threats that Marcus's criminal organization had created, while emphasizing the importance of maximum penalties to deter arms trafficking and terrorist support. Intelligence analysis indicates that Marcus Whitfield's criminal network provided weapons systems that enhanced terrorist capabilities for decades to come, Agent Chen testified, while presenting classified threat assessments. Maximum penalties are essential to deter similar criminal activities and protect American security interests. The national security testimony supported life imprisonment while establishing that Marcus's crimes would continue threatening American interests until his criminal network was completely eliminated through prosecution and asset forfeiture. Federal prosecutors presented comprehensive evidence of Marcus's lack of remorse while documenting his continued anti-American attitudes and refusal to cooperate with ongoing investigations into terrorist organizations that had benefited from his arms sales. Marcus Whitfield has shown no remorse for his criminal activities, while refusing to provide information that could prevent future terrorist attacks, Prosecutor Martinez testified during sentencing arguments. His continued defiance demonstrates ongoing danger to American security interests. The evidence of Marcus's unrepentant attitude supported maximum penalties while eliminating any possibility of reduced sentences based on cooperation or acceptance of responsibility for criminal activities that had endangered American lives and security interests. Judge Martinez imposed a life sentence without possibility of parole, while ordering complete forfeiture of all assets associated with Marcus's criminal activities and requiring restitution payments to victims of terrorist attacks that had been enabled by his arms trafficking. Marcus Whitfield's crimes against American interests warrant life imprisonment to protect national security, while ensuring that he can never again threaten American lives through illegal arms trafficking, Judge Martinez announced, while imposing maximum penalties. Complete asset forfeiture will compensate victims while demonstrating that criminal activities against American interests will not provide long-term benefits. The comprehensive penalties eliminated Marcus's wealth and freedom, while providing closure for victims and deterrence against similar criminal activities that threatened American security interests and international stability. Asset forfeiture proceedings distributed Marcus's seized wealth to victims of terrorist attacks, while funding enhanced counter-terrorism programs and intelligence capabilities that would prevent similar criminal activities and protect American interests. The forfeiture of Marcus's luxury properties, business assets and investment accounts provided substantial compensation for victims while demonstrating that criminal proceeds would not benefit perpetrators or their associates, regardless of their initial success in evading detection. Emma's immunity agreement protected her from prosecution while providing witness protection services that ensured her safety from retaliation by Marcus's criminal associates or international terrorist organizations that had benefited from his arms sales. Her cooperation with federal investigators had been essential for gathering evidence, while her continued testimony in related prosecutions would help eliminate Marcus's entire criminal network and prevent future arms trafficking that threatened American security interests. Agent Chen received recognition for his undercover work while continuing his career in federal law enforcement, with enhanced expertise in complex international investigations and counter-terrorism operations that protected American interests. His successful infiltration of Marcus's criminal organization demonstrated the effectiveness of undercover operations while providing valuable experience that would benefit future investigations into arms trafficking and terrorist financing networks. Marcus Whitfield's prosecution and conviction created lasting changes in how federal agencies investigated arms trafficking, while strengthening international cooperation and legal frameworks that protected American interests from similar criminal activities and terrorist threats. The evidence gathered during Marcus's investigation influenced congressional legislation that enhanced penalties for arms trafficking while providing federal agencies with improved tools for detecting and prosecuting criminal activities that threatened national security and international stability. The Arms Trafficking Prevention Act, passed with bipartisan support, incorporated lessons from Marcus's case while strengthening export controls and sanctions enforcement that would prevent similar criminal activities and protect American security interests. International law enforcement cooperation was enhanced through Marcus's case, as allied nations recognized the importance of coordinating investigations into complex criminal networks that operated across national boundaries while threatening multiple countries' security interests. The global nature of Marcus's criminal activities demonstrated the need for comprehensive international cooperation while establishing precedents for intelligence sharing and coordinated prosecution that would benefit future counterterrorism efforts and arms trafficking investigations. Federal agencies developed enhanced screening procedures for cybersecurity contractors while implementing oversight mechanisms that would detect potential criminal activities and prevent exploitation of legitimate business operations for illegal arms trafficking and terrorist support. The cybersecurity industry adopted stronger ethical standards and security protocols based on lessons from Marcus's case, while recognizing that technical expertise created obligations to protect rather than threaten national security and international stability. Academic institutions incorporated Marcus's case into curricula about national security law, international relations, and business ethics, while educating future leaders about their responsibilities to protect American interests and reject criminal activities that threaten democratic values. The case became a cornerstone of business ethics education, while demonstrating how technical expertise and business success could be misused for criminal purposes that betrayed national interests and democratic principles. Emma's courage in exposing Marcus's criminal activities inspired other Americans to report suspicious activities, while demonstrating that patriotic duty sometimes required difficult personal choices and sacrifices to protect national security and public safety. Her example influenced federal policies for protecting whistleblowers and encouraging cooperation with national security investigations, while ensuring that Americans who reported criminal activities would receive appropriate protection and recognition. Agent Chen's undercover success influenced federal training programs, while demonstrating the importance of long-term investigations and sophisticated surveillance capabilities for penetrating complex criminal organizations that threatened American security interests. His experience contributed to enhanced federal capabilities for detecting and prosecuting arms trafficking, while providing valuable insights into criminal psychology and organizational structures that supported illegal activities. The international intelligence community recognized Marcus's case as evidence of sophisticated threats to democratic nations, while strengthening cooperation and information sharing that would prevent similar criminal activities and protect allied interests. Counter-terrorism agencies worldwide adopted enhanced procedures for detecting arms trafficking, while using Marcus's case as an example of how legitimate businesses could be exploited for illegal activities that supported terrorist organizations and hostile governments. The long-term impact of Marcus's prosecution included deterrence effects that reduced arms trafficking, while demonstrating that sophisticated criminal activities would face comprehensive investigation and maximum penalties, regardless of their initial success in evading detection. His life sentence and asset forfeiture sent clear messages to potential arms dealers, while establishing that criminal activities against American interests would result in complete destruction of wealth and freedom rather than long-term benefits or protection. Epilogue: Justice and Redemption. 5 years after Marcus Whitfield's conviction and life imprisonment, the comprehensive transformation of arms trafficking prevention and counter-terrorism cooperation had created lasting protection for American interests, while demonstrating that sophisticated criminal activities would face appropriate consequences and deterrence. Emma Whitfield's new identity and protected status enabled her to rebuild her life, while continuing to support federal investigations and counter-terrorism efforts that benefited from her experience and expertise in detecting criminal activities that threatened national security. Her decision to dedicate her life to protecting American interests had created positive meaning from the trauma of discovering and exposing Marcus's criminal activities, while demonstrating that personal sacrifice could contribute to broader security and democratic values. Agent David Chen's career advancement reflected recognition of his successful undercover work, while his continued service in federal law enforcement contributed to ongoing efforts to detect and prosecute criminal activities that threatened American security interests. His experience with complex international investigations provided valuable expertise that influenced federal training programs, while strengthening capabilities for future operations against sophisticated criminal organizations that posed threats to democratic nations. The victims of terrorist attacks that had been enabled by Marcus's arms trafficking received substantial compensation through asset forfeiture, while their families found some measure of justice in his life imprisonment and the prevention of similar criminal activities. The financial compensation could not restore lost lives, but demonstrated societal commitment to holding criminals accountable, while providing support for families who had suffered from terrorist violence that Marcus's activities had enabled. The enhanced federal capabilities for detecting arms trafficking and terrorist financing had prevented numerous attacks, while demonstrating the importance of comprehensive investigation and international cooperation in protecting democratic values and public safety. The intelligence and law enforcement improvements that resulted from Marcus's case contributed to broader counter-terrorism success while establishing precedents for future investigations into complex criminal networks that threatened multiple nations' security interests. Marcus's life imprisonment in maximum security federal facilities ensured that he could never again threaten American interests, while providing time for reflection on the consequences of his criminal choices and their impact on victims and national security. His complete isolation from criminal associates and communication systems eliminated any possibility of continued involvement in arms trafficking, while demonstrating that criminal activities would result in permanent separation from society and loss of all freedoms and privileges. The educational impact of Marcus's case influenced thousands of students and professionals, while demonstrating the importance of ethical decision-making and commitment to democratic values that protected rather than threatened American interests and international stability. His example served as permanent warning about how technical expertise and business success could be corrupted by criminal motivations, while emphasizing personal responsibility for protecting national security and rejecting illegal activities. Most importantly, the case reinforced fundamental truths about loyalty, duty, and the consequences of betraying democratic values and national interests, while demonstrating that justice was possible when citizens and law enforcement agencies worked together to protect American security. The cameras that had captured Marcus's discovery of Emma and David's staged affair had inadvertently recorded evidence that contributed to comprehensive prosecution, while demonstrating that technology designed for criminal purposes could become instruments of justice and accountability. Their story continued to influence national security policy and law enforcement training, while serving as proof that individual courage and commitment to democratic values could overcome sophisticated criminal activities and protect American interests from those who would betray them. If this story touched you, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments what part resonated most with you. Until next time.